has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and
So, Speaker, let me also say that we have seen widening of spreads, of Ghana's spreads in the international bond market. Widening. So, Speaker, recently, when the Minister for Information issued a statement that Ghana has decided to enter into an IMF program, so, Speaker, the yields improved. But a week after, we've seen the yields even getting worse than where it used to be before. Speaker, the question is why? Why? The country's economic management has simply lost favor with international markets. That is what it is. That is what it is, because, Speaker, they cannot see policy. There is no policy in what they are doing. So, Speaker, yesterday's statement, I was of the view that since the country is in an economic crisis, the minister would have come here and speak economics. He only came here to speak English language, as if we are in an English language crisis. Again, we have seen where this administration is hiding debt. Hidden debt. So, Speaker, I say hidden debt for a simple reason that where Ghana Education Trust Fund has been encouraged to borrow excess of 3 billion Ghana cedis, yet it's not captured in public debt. So, Speaker, extra Energy Sector Levies Act, the revenue flow has been used for collateralization, yet it is not part of the government debt. So, Speaker, what are we witnessing? So, Speaker, it will also surprise you that this House, when we approved what we call the Sino-Hydro loan, the one that our brothers opposite call it butter. Butter. So, Speaker, that loan is now due for servicing beginning January next year. So, Speaker, we were informed that they are going to collect the revenue from the alumina, and use it for the purposes of servicing them. So, Speaker, as we speak, nothing has happened. Now it is on Ghana's head as abattoir. So, Speaker, all of that is hidden from government debt. So, Speaker, let me say that I can comfortably project that by the end of the year 2022, Ghana's debt as a percentage to GDP will exceed 90%. 90%. So, Speaker, that is the stark reality. So, Speaker, I won't be surprised that by the end of the year 2023, our debt situation will be 100% of our GDP. Between January to June 2022, this administration has taken 22 billion and 48 million Ghana cedis from the Bank of Ghana. So, Speaker, when the Bank of Ghana or the central bank gives money to government of Ghana, it's called printing of money. In economics, it's called printing of money. So, Speaker, they have printed 22 billion Ghana cedis without recourse to Parliament. So, Speaker, that is unacceptable. So, Speaker, let me take you to the Bank of Ghana Act. So, Speaker, let me take you to Bank of Ghana Act. So, Speaker, Section 30 of Act 612 amended. So, Speaker, it says that the principal enactment is amended by A, the substitution for the subsection 2 of 2, that the total revenue, advances, purchases of treasury bills, and securities made under subsection 1 shall not at any time exceed 5% of total revenue of the previous fiscal year. So, Speaker, the previous fiscal year was total revenue for the fiscal year was 70 billion. 70 billion. 5% of 70 billion, so, Speaker, is about 3.5 billion. They have taken 22 billion without Parliament approval. So, Speaker, without Parliament approval, so, Speaker, 5%. So, Speaker, previously, it used to be 10%. So, Speaker, when I was a deputy minister, I appeared before this House to get that amended. Because, the Speaker, central bank financing does two things to the Ghanaian economy. An economy that is import-driven. If as a country we continue that path, two things happen to us. Inflation, the Speaker, will gallop. The Speaker, we all know what galloping inflation can do to all of us. The Speaker, apart from that, because we are import-driven economy, you end up depleting your reserves faster. No wonder our net international reserves, they cannot even complain. The Speaker, it will surprise you to know. It will surprise you to know that this morning I heard our colleagues saying that, oh, it is an overdraft. Oh, it is this. So, Speaker, 22 billion. This 22 billion is not part of the debt.
It must be emphasized that right from the onset now, that, and for the avoidance of doubt, that the NDC caucus in Parliament stand firmly firmly by the original position that the central bank has printed 22 billion Ghana cedis. It is regrettable to observe that the Bank of Ghana, in its response, merely resorted to an unambiguous position where they failed to condemn the fact that they have not printed money. The central bank only tried to use words and technicality and to hide from the fact that they have not printed money. In fact, I want to say that what the central bank did yesterday in a form of press release has rather increased our suspicion that a lot is wrong at the Bank of Ghana, and there's the need for us to pay attention to exactly what the central bank is doing. For the avoidance of doubt, the central bank informed us that they have used about 6 billion Ghana cedis representing SDR money from the IMF resources. That is palpable falsehood, because if you are to look at Appendix 2A, page 97 of the document, and for everybody's information, you will notice that our minister responsible for finance had informed Parliament that they drew down zero from the IMF resources, SDR. So between the central bank and the Ministry of Finance, who is telling us the truth? Clearly, a lot is wrong. Number two, the Bank of Ghana informed us that they have used 2.8 billion Ghana cedis representing monies that belongs to statutory funds, and they have unlent monies for GET Fund, National Health Insurance, and this Assembly Common Fund to government. That cannot be the case. For your information, the monies that belongs to GET Fund, National Health Insurance, and this Assembly Common Fund has already been spent. So how can you lend money that has already been spent? I've spent the money, I've lent the money that I've already spent. How can that be? And most importantly, I was at a loss when the central bank said that they bought back some of the bonds that are being held by some of the commercial banks. Colleagues, that cannot be the primary function of a Bank of Ghana or a central bank. In fact, if the central bank want to engage in things like this, they are deviating from their core mandate. Because in fact, that is why we have the secondary market, where you can trade said bonds. So the central bank has no mandate to engage in what they are trying to do. And they are trying to rationalize it by saying it's similar to repos. This cannot be repos and cannot be similar to repos. They conceded that they have lent government 11 billion in a form of advances or overdraft. Overdraft is a debt. In fact, for your information, clearly, where would the central bank get the money from to loan somebody or give somebody overdraft? You have to print money. So they've engaged in printing. So what they seek to do is to tell Ghanaians that yes, we have printed money, but we have not printed 22 billion, but we've printed 11 billion. That is what their statement is trying to say.
We've been to the IMF 19 times since 1965. We've been dealing with them 19 times since 1965. So if you're going again for the 20th time, it is very easy to work out what it is that they're going to put before us. With regards to employment, the best deal we got for employment was actually under President Mahama. I see you are surprised. Because every time we went there, they asked for retrenchment of labor. We simply meant that the people who were already working sacked them. So in 1982, 1983, we retrenched 300,000 workers from the public and civil service. When President Mahama went there, the condition they gave him was freeze employment.
Freeze, yeah.
Those there, keep them there, but don't employ more. That's what I'm saying is the best deal that we got. You understand? Keep them, don't employ more. I don't see anything that the IMF will tell us about employment, which will be better than freezing employment in the public sector. That's what they do all the time. And it's not strange. IMF, what is his business? What is his main business? The main business of the IMF is to control countries that go to it like we are going, so that they will save money to pay their loans. That's all. When they talk about policy credibility, what they are saying is that, oh, we are going to make sure that they keep the money for repayment of loans and other things intact. The measures they are following is such that at the end of every year, the loans they have to pay plus the interest they'll be able to pay. That's all. Now, in this current situation, how are we going to make that savings to be able to pay off our loans plus interest? Show me what we are going to do. So, public sector employment will suffer. I believe what Austin Gami is saying. It will suffer. Austin Gami knows what he's saying. He's been around for some time. He knows what he's saying. It will suffer. Then the IMF is also known for attacking pro-poor social interventions. They brought about the cash and carry system, if you remember. They asked us to withdraw subsidies on education and so on. So we know that. So at the end of the day, I think Ghanaians should expect a lot more hardship, from the IMF deal than they probably were in. The IMF is not coming here to make sure that petroleum prices fall. No, that's not their business. They are not here to make sure that kinky price stabilize. That's not their business. They are not here to ensure that our dependence on food imports is reduced. That's not their business. Their main business is to ensure that we are able to pay our loans. That's all.
I would recall that the bulk oil and storage company under Mr. Kwame Awuah-Darkwa commenced the process of constructing a twin tower state-of-the-art multi-complex story building in 2015. Indeed, all the preparations had been concluded and the contractor, Rolida, was about commencing. However, following the 2016 elections, the new administration constituted by the Akufo-Addo government labeled a plethora of allegations against Mr. Awuah and his team. This culminated in Iyoko inviting Mr. Awuah-Darkwa and members of his team, subjected them to very thorough investigations. After so many months of investigations by Iyoko, the report, which we have a copy here and we'll share with you, not only exonerated them, the report confirmed that indeed that project met all the ingredients of value for money and that the project was indeed viable and ought to continue. One would have thought that having concluded that, BOST would continue with that project based on the initial amount of $39 million. Let me put on record that the Twin Tower originally was scheduled to cost $39 million. However, documents that we have intercepted, contract was said to have increased to $49 million. From $39 million, it increased to $49 million. That is not enough. Having increased to 49, the board of BOST decided that they will procure only one single unit. They wrote to the Minister of Finance and had a response from the Deputy Minister, John Kuma, granting them approval to procure that single unit at $24 million. If you look at the old amount, it should have been 19.5. So it went to 24. And so BOST applied to the Public Procurement Authority for approval. To our utmost shock and dismay, in granting the approval, the Public Procurement Authority then increased the amount from $24 million to $39 million. Wow. And so a single unit, which would have originally costed us about $19 million in 2017, has now ballooned and metamorphosized into $39 million. What it means is that when you account for the two buildings, it will cost us a colossal $78 million. So this project has inflated, been padded from the original 39. Now the two would cost $78 million. This is a time government has been crying and complaining that it cannot even get money to pay salaries. And yet, we have state agencies under this administration padding contracts, inflating contracts to the tune of about 100%. This is unacceptable. This is unfortunate. This is inimical. And we on the minority would use everything within our means to ensure that we address this challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, I have all the documents for you, and I will give you the documents. For instance, this is a May 20, 2022 document from the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company. They applied to PPA for a contract of $24 million. It's stated here, $24 million. The PPA then responded and approved $39 million. How come the boss has done his own assessment, interacted with the consultant, decided that it should be $24 million, only for the approval to turn out to be $39 million? If this is not...
On Tuesday, July 26, 2022, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, made the announcement of the nominations on the floor of the House following a letter sent to him by the President. The nominees from the Court of Appeal are Justice Barbara Frances Akayinsu, Justice George Kingsley Kumsin, and Justice...
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and...
And of course, we are live from the studios of Pan-African Television. Thank you very much for joining us. Good morning to you, wherever you are. Thanks for choosing us. It's the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. Here, we say it as it is, no matter who is involved in it, and we'll leave you better educated. Once again, good morning to you. I hope you had a lovely weekend. We are live on TV, Pan-African Television. We are also live on social media, Pan-African Television on Facebook, Pan-African TV on YouTube, and of course, we are live on Radio Gold and several other affiliates across the country. A big thank you to Ahunto 92.3 FM this morning. Well, it was one of the most highly anticipated media budget reviews ever because of the problems that had arisen after the budget itself was read. The E-levy was said not to be yielding the amount of money that government anticipated. It was supposed to be the alternative to the International Monetary Fund. But the International Monetary Fund had been in this country gathering data on the economy to see what help they can offer us. Prices were out of the roof. Price of commodities were going up. Foodstuffs were becoming much more expensive. The cedi had lost more ground against the dollar. The government had serious issues with the debts that was creating liquidity challenges to the extent that the free senior high school policy was suffering. Now parents had to contribute monies to support schools. Some parents say they go as far as getting people to cook for their children in the schools they are in. So the question was what solutions were going to be provided to these problems in the media budget review. Well, initially we understood the minister was coming through a motion to seek for more funding. He didn't do that. He decided in the end to make a statement to Parliament about the state of the economy and then inform Parliament that because of the rising prices of crude, more money had accumulated to government.
he will use that money to make up for the shortfall in terms of the monies that he needed to prop up the budget. Did it meet your expectations? Well, we'll be discussing the mid-year budget review. The minority's response is a huge echo of resign, and they've kept at it, insisting that the finance minister needs to go. Well, he has subsequently been making some interesting comments. The finance minister said in the mid-year budget review, the free senior high school policy is not under review. A few days after, he's granted an interview to a major news network in this country, saying that the free senior high school is there's a review being considered by cabinet. They are waiting for a cabinet approval, among several other issues that have arisen ever since the budget was read. Then we'll stay in Parliament, because the Privileges Committee is done with its work on Sarah Adwoa-Safo. They submitted a report to Parliament. The chairperson of the Privileges Committee, who is the first deputy speaker, was of the opinion that once they've established that they've made reasonable efforts to give her an opportunity to be heard, and she's not taking advantage of that reasonable efforts, those reasonable efforts, they had come to the conclusion that the seat needed to be declared vacant. And so he had even gone a step further to tell the Electoral Commission to start processes. But the members of the minority side disagree. They say he works as a member of a committee, a chair of a committee of Parliament. The matter was referred to him. What he was supposed to do is come to present a report on the reasonableness of the excuse that was given by Sarah Adwoa-Safo, and then they will make a determination as to whether they did enough, and then what happened to Sarah Adwoa-Safo. The speaker thought about the issue for a while and decided he needed to consult a bit more, and he will come back when Parliament returns from recess, because Parliament is now on recess. So we'll talk about Sarah Adwoa-Safo, because the president has also finally fired her from her position as minister, a call that has been many months in the making. And then we'll talk about corruption, because the office of the president keeps featuring prominently in surveys that have been conducted recently. In terms of corruption, CDD is the latest. They are second to the police. Police are not happy about the fact that they keep ranking first. For the IGP issued a response saying that the surveys have been unfair to them. And then the president has appointed 4 more Supreme Court judges. That's our last issue that we'll be discussing. Prominent is a judge who started off as a lawyer in Ho, and in 2020 was made a High Court judge. 2 years after that, the president has deemed it fit to elevate him from a High Court judge to a Supreme Court judge. There are those who've gone back to 2016 to pull flyers of the same person contesting on the ticket of the MPP in the 2016 elections to be member of Parliament for Ho Central. We'll be ending with that issue. Those are the issues we'll be discussing this morning. Joining me for this discussion this morning, Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed is member of Parliament for Tamale Central. For the first time, we've managed to drag her here. Haja Hamdatu Ibrahim, who is a former acting chairperson of the Convention People's Party. And then closer to me, of course, is Mr. Solomon Owusu, a member of the MPP's communications team. We will be joined shortly by Nia Boyanan, who is a financial analyst, for the discussion today. Thank you very much for making time to join us. We will dive right into it. We start with the issue of the budget. Let's start with Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. He was in Parliament. The media budget review was presented to them. They are of the opinion that the finance minister should resign. We want to listen to his thoughts. Good morning, Comrade.
Good morning, Senator. Good morning to my brother and my sister who has abandoned me. And I think that it's unfortunate that my sister who has abandoned me. And good morning to your cherished viewers, and most importantly, the good people of Tamale Central. And permit me to reiterate the point that the free classes we organize for the BEC students in Tamale are still ongoing. I think that will be winding up. They're about writing their exams. And what we did last year, given the students the free mathematical set and also TNT, covering the 5 days they engage in the exams. Inshallah, we shall be doing that again this year. Last year, we had over 1,250 students. This year, we would have, so far, the information I'm getting from the handlers of the classes are that we haven't close to 1,500 because we added another center. We had 4 centers last year. This year, we have 5 centers. So, and those who are from other constituencies who are participating, I just want to urge the students to allow them to participate. If any of the constituencies organize same, and people from Tamale Center attend, I don't think that they would ask them to go, because I've had reports that some says, you are not from this constituency, you don't need to attend the classes. So now, the idea of presenting the mid-year budget was initially not compulsory. But after we had the Financial Management Act, it became compulsory for the Minister for Finance to appear before Parliament to present the mid-year budget. And the purpose for the presentation of the mid-year budget is to take care of some of the unforeseen things when the budget was presented. Because budget clearly is the estimates of, it's a planned expenditure against expected revenue. For your expenditure, you can comfortably plan it. But the revenue is expected that we'll be able to do A, B, C, D, and these are the sources that we'll be getting the funding for the purpose. And under the prevailing economic circumstances, it stands to reason that you may not be able to meet your expected, revenue. So it stands to reason why we have this. And when we have the Financial Management Act, it became compulsory on the Minister for Finance that within the half year, that is 6 months, he must present the budget, the mid-year budget. We remember he delayed. Parliament had indicated to the people of this country when the mid-year budget was going to be presented. Parliament had realigned their programs for the purposes of the presentation of the mid-year budget. The Minister for Finance refused to come and gave flimsy excuses. Parliament understood. Now he fixed a date that they were coming, and once again were informed that he was not able to come on that date because of the IMF interactions that they had as a result of how miserably they have managed this economy. Now, even on the day the minister was supposed to appear before Parliament, we were informed he was coming to address the people of this country at 10 o'clock. The speaker was aware it was 10. We were informed the previous day that we were going to have the minister in the chamber at 10 o'clock. On that day, the speaker himself, and I can reliably tell you, got the information through social media that the minister was coming to address Parliament and present the mid-year budget at 1 o'clock. And I know reliably that the speaker expressed profound misgivings about that. This minister consistently has shown disdain, disrespect before Parliament. And even when he appears, the attitude he puts is that of condescending. The speaker got to know about the change of time of addressing the people of this country in the presentation of the mid-year budget through social media. I really think it is just unacceptable. Now, I predicted what he was coming to tell the people of this country. I predicted that he was coming in white. I predicted that he was coming to make mockery of God. And when I say mockery of God, he was coming to quote the Bible, yet the things he's going to present will be completely at variance with what the Bible says. And true to my prediction, that was what he did. I also predicted that he was coming to peddle absolute falsehood. And if you put it mildly, outright lies. Figures do not lie. Now, one thing that was shocking to me was a stop or a cancellation of a policy intervention. In this case, the NAPCO. And I'll come to the NAPCO. I want us to look at the inconsistency and factual inaccurate statements that he put. Now, he said that they had engaged. In fact, and let me just quote him very well, because if I don't quote him that well, we may not have the good free SHS. The minister said, Mr. Speaker, we have placed human capital development at the core of our national transformation effort since 2017. We have invested 5.3 billion to enable 1,261,495 Ghanaian children access to secondary education. Now, the Minister for Education Few days before this Minister for Finance appeared before Parliament, in response to a question as to how much government had spent so far in the implementation of the free SHS, stated 7.3 billion. 7.3 billion. Well, a little over 7.3 billion. This minister appeared before Parliament and said 5.3 billion. Who is lying to the people of this country? One of them certainly must be lying to us. One of them. I had a desperate attempt to deceive the people of this country once again by my good friend, the PRO of the ministry, and he said, oh, the minister said, oh, it's an investment, and therefore investment is more than expenditure. Me, I don't have finance background, but I do know that investment could be an expenditure. And in any case, the words of the minister is palpable. That's why I read it. The 5.3 billion. Then the Minister for Education said a little over 7 billion. So it's one of them certainly should not be telling us the truth. Another falsehood that he said that we have invested 5.3 billion to enable 1,261,495 Ghanaian children access to secondary education under the free SHS program in the year 2021 to improve access to education. You know what the minister did? He took the numbers of placement, calculate the total number of placement, and arrive at this figure. That is completely misleading. If you say that you have made education accessible to students through the free SHS, the best way and the most appropriate way to assess that is to look at the number of students who sat for the final exams. That is what you need to look at. Someone can start second year and drop. You haven't given him secondary education. Someone can start first year and drop. You haven't given him secondary education. The people you have given secondary education are people who have started first year and ended third year. Now, it would be unfair for me to say that, yes, for you to say that you have given people secondary education, they should be able to have access to university or other tertiary institutions. Once the focus is secondary education, once you've been able to tutelate them from first year to third year, and they start for the exams, that mission has been accomplished. Now, if you take the figures provided by this government itself, I mean, I don't know why they think that Ghana, we are a bunch of idiots. That's what they think we are. Because if you are putting up that figures, the people of this country are smart. The first batch, we had, the number was about 517,331. The second, it dropped to 446,000. In fact, the 446,000, the first batch, that was 2016, with 446,000. That was the last batch that people sat for the exams. And then the second batch, those who sat for the exams, was 375,000, even below the 16,000. You remember we raised issues that compared the number of people who sat for the exams in 2016 against the number of people who sat for the exams in 2019. I remember we're even raising the issue that if that is what you assess, then you have more people who sat for the exams in 2016 than the first batch who sat for the exams. Of course, the last one, there was an increase. We had about 446,352. Now, if you take the total number of people who sat for the exams, you will not get anywhere closer to 1,261,495. You won't get that. So what was the minister trying to tell the people of this country? So that is another way of deceiving the people of this country. Another very important point that we need to look at. Every single issue we raised about the free SHS, we have been vindicated. When they talked about the free SHS, mind you, President Mahama started implementing the free SHS. And there are evidences to that effect. Go to the Ministry of Education website. They themselves had acknowledged that there was a progressive implementation of the free SHS. I am a trained teacher, and I've had the opportunity to have taught at all levels of education. Primary school, GHS, secondary school, at the university. I've had the opportunity to have taught. I have been a youth organizer, and I tout myself as the longest serving student leader in this country for 10 solid years, actively engaged in student activism. From SRC in Legon to USAC to NUCS, and then I became the Secretary General of the All Africa Students Union for 4 years. At the Youth Employment Program, when I had the privileged opportunity to be appointed as Deputy National Coordinator, I was handling the CETA model, that is the teaching model of the Youth Employment Program. So if there is anyone who is properly placed to have an appreciation of education, particularly for young people, I think that I'll be one of those who are properly placed. My appreciation of education is not just making it free, but quality education. I'll be very comfortable with 100 quality students or citizens who are properly educated and given quality education than million people who are not given quality education. And I think that in developing the human resource base of any country, that's what you should be focusing on. That is not to say that free education is not good. That's not what I'm saying. But for us to not just make it accessible to all, but make quality education accessible to all, we must look at all the factors that will occasion the quality that we are looking for. So now I'll give you a scenario. Take a public school. A public school, teachers teaching at the public school are all trained teachers, or they are all supposed to be trained teachers. Juxtapose that with some of the private schools. Most of the teachers in the private schools are not trained teachers. How come the students in the private schools do better than students in the public school? The reason is simple. Education is not just accessibility, but the processes, the conditions that will make teaching and learning very effective. Go to the private schools. You can go to a private school and you have about 15 students in a class, being attended to by 2 teachers. You go to public school and you have about 75 students in a class, being attended to by 1 teacher. Even attention itself will be a problem. So you can have the most educated, the most highly trained teacher, but because of the conditions under which the processes of teaching and learning take place is not conducive, he will not be able to produce the kind of quality citizens that you want. And that is why the private schools, they are doing better because the conditions are conducive. How can you have students still under trees, yet you say that you are having quality education? The child who sits in a class where it is enclosed, he or she is not disturbed by the honking of moving vehicles. Birds don't release things on her. Okay? The teaching and learning materials are available. Textbooks are available. The conditions, they have very comfortable, chairs to sit on. Such a student certainly will be psychologically prepared to absorb whatever he or she is taught. And such a student will do better. Now, why President Mahama thought that there was the need for us to do it progressively was that he wanted to attain not just free education, but free and quality education. So let's provide the structures first. Let's ensure that we have more trained teachers. Once you provide the structures, you have more trained teachers in public schools, they will do better. And now, if you look at the teacher training allowances, I am a beneficiary of the teacher training allowances. And I heard some of our colleagues who say, oh, when you were at the teacher training college, you got it, and therefore you are against those who are taking it. Maybe perhaps people do not know the history behind the teacher training allowances. And I'm making this, and I'll tie it with something. When we got independence, Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, visionary as he was, realized that not many people wanted to go into the professions such as nursing and teaching. So he came out with an idea that those who are willing to be trained as teachers and nurses and other professions, it was not only these 2, but I'm using these 2 for the purposes of this our discussion. We'll be giving you some incentives. Allowances were extended to them. Not only allowances, they were given food every week. You have sardines and others that are given to them, so that he could attract more and more teachers into. Mind you, when we had independence, our human resource base was not how many people were educated in Ghana. Of course, we were better as compared to some of our African countries. So a lot of people developed the interest to get into these professions. Now Nkrumah continued it. Unknown to some of our young colleagues in MPP who are communicating for them. When they criminally overthrew Nkrumah, the NLC, the NLC, and they macro-managed the elections for Buzia to win the 1969 elections, when they made him the NCCE boss, gave him only the opportunity to travel around the country to engage in campaigning. The first policy decision of Buzia was to scrap the allowances given to teachers. That was the first policy. And that's one thing a lot of our friends in MPP do not know. The only person who restored that was former President Rawlings when he became a military leader. Buzia scrapped it. So you had more and more teachers who were moving away from more and more people were not interested in the teaching profession and the nursing. So when Rawlings decided in the 80s that, look, we needed to have more teachers, he came out, restored that policy, and got funding, I think, from Danida, some of the Danish government, and he got a lot of funding. Now, we are now in times that whether with incentives or not incentives, people are struggling and begging to be admitted into the teacher training colleges. Because the number of students we churn out every year from the SHS are huge. 2016 we had over 400,000. So this number of students cannot all have access to universities and other tertiary institutions. Some would want the teacher training colleges, some would want the nursing training colleges. So it is no longer a need. We have more than enough. Now, how can you be introducing free SHS when you know that with the free SHS, more people would want to have access to secondary education? So if more people want to have access to secondary education, don't you think that a government that has vision will be thinking of training more teachers so that those teachers can take care of the more students who want to have access to secondary education? Instead, you have decided that I am restoring the teacher training allowances. President Muhammad said, let's take it out because more people want admission. And two, there are now tertiary institutions. They do diploma and now degree courses in the teacher training colleges. Let's take it out and substitute that with loans so that students who want the loan can have the loan. Those who do not want the loan will not go for the loan. There are students in the universities who have never taken the loans. I took the loan when I was in the university. When I finished and my junior brother was going to, I said, don't take the loan. So President Muhammad did that. Now you restored it just to satisfy the uncontrollable ego of President Nanado with quota. You restored the teacher trainee allowances, restored the nursing trainee allowances, and gave them conditions, cut the number of people you admit into your institutions. Take Tamale Training College, for example. A training college I attended that has the capacity to admit 600 students. Now you told them that don't admit 600, admit 150 students. Because if you admit 600, Kumasi Teacher Training College admit 1,000, Greater Accra admit 1,000, I will not be able to pay them the allowance. So I am asking you to reduce the number of teachers you train for the purposes of this country and ensuring quality education for something that I'm doing free in the long run. I am asking you to cut, not because we do not need them, but because I can't pay. It's so visionless. It simply doesn't make sense. Look, I'll give another example. The nursing training allowances. As recent as February 2000, in fact 24 February 2017, at that time President Nanado was the president of the Republic of Ghana in his own home region, Koforidua. The midwifery and nurses council, they have nurses and midwifery council. They had their congress and issued a communique at the end of the congress that we had a deficit of 38,000 nurses in Ghana to be able to meet the WHO standard of patient-nurses ratio, 38,000. At that same time, the president had asked the nursing training colleges not to admit more nursing trainees because he wants to satisfy his unbridled and uncontrollable ego. As if that was enough, they also asked students who were applying to be admitted into the nursing training colleges to pay a compulsory 100 Ghana cedis if you are applying without a receipt. And the explanation, the administrators of the schools, that the Minister of Health asked them to generate money. You ask them to cut intake. You also now ask them to extort money from students. Now, take Olibu, and I remember at that time the current NHIE boss, I was with him on a sister TV station, and he was the board chair. When I asked, he said, oh, I can't confirm, I need to. Meanwhile, he was the board chair. Compulsory 100 Ghana cedis, each of the students paid. Now, what they did was that, if I haven't bought the form, you pay money. Then before you submit the form, you pay, they just write your name without any receipt. Now, if you had about, in fact, and at that time the information I got, Kolebu, the nursing training college alone, that almost 3,000 students applied. They each paid this money. Those they invited for the interview were less than 1,000. So it's extortion. Now let's come to NAPCO. I had maintained, and I don't know whether I still have some time.
And I hope you end on NAPCO.
Yes, I'll end on it. A lot of things in the media budget that he just bundled West that were completely deceptive, and I don't even know which ones I'll pick, but I'll pick on NAPCO and end on it. If you take NAPCO, I maintain repeatedly that they were lying to the people of this country consistently. By the way, the current MPP National Secretary, what he presided over at YEA, in the coming days, the people of this country will be shocked. They're rot. Look, I have had the opportunity to be appointed as Deputy National Coordinator for the National Youth Employment Program. So I have an understanding how much you needed to establish a program such as that. The NYEP was instituted by President Kufuor, and I always give credit to him. And it was as a result of a survey the National Security did. And they realized that the joblessness at that time was getting out of hand. And that if they didn't do anything about it, we could have had our own Ghanaian Spring at hand. So you realize, if you look at the program, it was implemented under the circumstances without any legal regime regulating the implementation of the program. And that is understandable. Even sources of funding, there wasn't any stable sources of funding for the NYP. They had some money from GET Fund, some from NHIE, some from all manner of funds were taken for the purposes of the National Youth Employment Program. And I don't blame President Kufuor for that. Under the prevailing circumstances, there was nothing that they could do. Now, in 2017, 2018, when they wanted to introduce the communication service tax, you know, there was a huge uproar. Not only from NDC, almost everybody in Ghana was against it.
That was
2007. President Kufuor's explanation to convince all of us was that they were going to use the monies from the communication service tax to take care of job creation, particularly among young people. You realize the NDC changed our position and supported it. And in Parliament, they had it proved without any difficulty. Okay? Now, a percentage of the communication service tax was given for the NYEP. That was still not enough. But with the communication service tax, they didn't stop the other funding sources. Now, when Prof. Mills became the president, what he did was that he increased it. So the monies that was coming to NYP was huge. President Mahama came now, in fact, I can tell you currently, communication service tax to NYP gives it over 200 million Ghana cedis every month. Over 200 million Ghana cedis every month. So when they did this, the most important model under the youth employment program was the paid internship. In fact, that was what they used even to start. The paid internship was a model given to those who have tertiary education, either degree, HND, or even DBS. Now, they were sent to state institutions. And the rationale behind that was that, assuming we send 100 people to VRA, they will be working, we will be paying them for working for the state. So VRA would not spend money to recruit people. You just take them. The training, they would have had the training at VRA. VRA would train them to work for 2 years. Within 2 years, they would have had some expertise in working with VRA. So after 2 years, your appointment will be renewable if you wanted to be renewed. Anytime VRA wants to do recruitment, they just need to look at those they have already engaged under youth employment for 2 years and pick. So VRA would have avoided spending money to train them, because when you do new recruitment, you would have to train. They would have avoided spending money to train them. They would have been convinced the psyche, the caliber of people they are recruiting. To all the agencies. Community policing. The rationale behind the Zoom police, which unfortunately, was that recruit these people, they had the same training as police. The only training they are not given is how to use gun. So when they were being recruited, the training were at the training, the police training centers. They give them the same training. The only training they don't give them is how to use guns. Now, when we have people like this for 2 years, anytime the police were going to do recruitment, you just pick from them. Now, at the divisional offices and the district offices, they know the people they are working. They know that this person is a criminal, this person is not. Because within 2 years, you would have studied. Today, we have police officers who are more than armed robbers, who engage in armed robbery. Of course, there are few. But such police officers, they desecrate even the entire police force. Because in recruitment, what kind of psychological study do they do to establish the psyche of these people before they recruit them? But with the community policing, you would have taken these people. Now, if you take the paid internship, NABCO was nothing but the paid internship. Absolutely. I know for a fact that there was a problem between your former national organizer, my good friend, Samuel Oku, and Anyas. Because Samuel Oku was the board chair for NYEP. Yet monies that were meant for NYEP were diverted to pay NABCO offices. My view was that you didn't need to create another office, because the NYEP, even with all its challenges, had regional offices and district offices. Now, if we are taking a model to describe it as NABCO, just allow the NYEP to run it. Yet what they did, They created another separate office, regional offices, district offices, employ people, and took one model to that. When the NDC was leaving office, the NYEP paid internship model was paying the beneficiaries about 600 Ghana cedis. So what they just added was 100 Ghana cedis. And you remember the first time they implemented this was in 2018, the NAPCO. Take the 2018 budget. When I was not in Parliament, when I read the budget statement, I challenged on your program, on Alhaji And Alhaji, I challenged this government to tell me whether they were not lying to the people of this country. Boss, you have in the budget statement that the budget line for NAPCO was 400 million. And that 400 million included the establishment of regional offices, district offices, and employment. And you said you were engaging 100,000 young people. And you were paying each of them 700 Ghana cedis. So what I simply did, with my experience at NYP, you needed not less than 200 million to establish regional offices, district offices, and employ people to manage them. Not less than 200 million. So invariably, the budget line was 200 million per NAPCO. Now, 100,000 people, you stated that you were paying each of them 700 Ghana cedis. If you do a calculation of 100,000 by 700, it will give you 70 million. Multiply 70 million by 12, it will give you 840 million. Yet you have a budget line, granted that even the 400 million. When I raised this, do you know what they told me? The NAPCO people and the minister and their communicators said that I didn't know what I was talking about, that it was going to be taken care of in the mid-year budget. I said, okay. The Gombas have a proverb that if they are barbering you, you don't touch your head. When they finish barbering, you know whether the barbering is done well or not. Perhaps I'm taking from ABF saying. So I said, let me wait until the barber finishes. So I had that patience to wait till 2000, the mid-year budget was presented. And I challenge anybody. When you take the 2018 mid-year budget, NAPCO was not mentioned. NAPCO was not mentioned. So they lied to the people of this country. They never engaged 100,000 people. You see, to vindicate me, just last year, the president said that NAPCO engaged about 960,000 people. This was the president's, sorry, the president said 100,000 people. NAPCO boss sat on TV and said 117,000 people. The Minister for Finance appeared before Parliament and said 960,000 people. At least two of them are lying to us.
96,000.
Sorry, eh?
960,000. No, I think you meant 96,000.
Sorry, 96,000, sorry. The president said 100,000. The NAPCO board said 117,000. Then the Minister for Finance appeared before Parliament and said 96,000. So I said, with all due respect, at least for the NAPCO boss, he's my nephew. For him, maybe I can say he's lying. But the President and the Minister for Finance, at least two of you should be lying, including my nephew. So that certainly was not true. Now, that also explains why you have created 100,000 jobs, or 96,000 jobs, or 117,000 jobs under NAPCO. You have created thousands of jobs under planting for food and jobs. Yet unemployment rate in this country increased from 6.8, you took it from NDC. President Mahama, you berated as incompetent. 6.8 to 19%. 19. That was what the Statistical Service in the census, they did 19%. And in fact, when the minister appeared before Parliament to present the last year's budget, he said, oh, youth unemployment is 12.6%. 19%. And I can tell you, I have seen private international organizations who have rated the unemployment rate in this country to be over 30%. So how can you be creating jobs in that manner? Yet unemployment rate is increasing. It simply doesn't make sense. But you see, when you appoint database to manage your economy, this is what happens. And when you see them, they wear the check socks. You know the socks, and they have bundles in their bees. I mean, to be very honest, you and I, we lived in compound houses. We attended Saito schools. No, I'm not joking about it. It's not funny. You see, when you begin to appreciate the suffering of people at a distance, you don't know the pain they go through. I attended Kulkul school. I believe you, looking at you, we all attended Saito schools. For him, I know. Aji attended Saito schools. I don't know about my big brother. You see, we attended Saito schools. We have seen poverty. Even if you never felt it, At least you have neighbors you would know. These people attended the Yales, the Oxfords. They have never failed. They were born with golden spoons. I'm not saying that you can't find people who were born with golden spoons who may have. But you see, it is safer not to allow the best to manage your economy, because they don't feel the way we feel. You have the Minister for Agri. When people are crying, when food prices are soaring, he says that his wife tells him that prices of foodstuff are not high. Of course, the wife buys foodstuff at Maxmart, at Kuala. But my wife, your wife, they buy food at Malata Market. So he may not feel the way we feel. Okay. The salary you get, the salary I get, is not anything appreciable to that. So when you have that, they are not even demonstrating it in their actions. But they don't even speak with people with some empathy. To conclude, and it will be unfair if I don't talk on this. 1D1F. I think that the NDC should look at it carefully. And I know for a fact, and easily those who did economics, this government should tell us, before the introduction of 1D1F, how much were they generating as a result of import duties and export duties, particularly import duties to the so-called 1D1F we have in Ghana. Now what they have done, any company, I know foreign companies, I know, I agree to be taken on 1D1F so that once again, the president can stand before the cameras, eulogize himself, and say that we have this number of 1D1F. The moment any company agrees to be taken as 1D1F, they are given tax exemption for 5 years. So import duties, they don't pay. I know a company that used to pay import duties alone almost $4 million. Almost $4 million. That company said, oh, they've taken us on 1D1F. So they are no longer paying. Yet they haven't employed a single person. Not a single person. Because someone's uncontrollable ego must be not just protected but bloated. It simply doesn't make sense. Because the rationale behind the 1D1F was one, to expand, infrastructure, to expand those companies, give them those leverages so that they can employ more people. That was the rationale. Is that not the case? Support private entities, let them establish their factories, or if you like industries, give them some incentives so that they can expand. The monies they would have been paying for, using to pay the import duties and other export duties, let them use it to expand their businesses so that they can recruit more. But what they are simply doing is that existing established industries who were paying so much to the state are now being aided to avoid, in fact, this tax evasion aided by the state. They are now being aided to avoid that. That is why when they brought that incentives, the waivers, do you know they brought waivers for us to give in Parliament? Almost $12 million. $12 million to 2 companies. Waivers under 1D1F. $12 million. Now imagine that $12 million were to be paid, and the state used it to establish state farms. Could you imagine the number of people that $12 million? These 2 companies, $12 million, it simply doesn't make sense. So you see, to be very honest, and I conclude on this, this minister is still the minister. This minister, Senna, is still the minister because he uses Ofuriata. He has failed in every sector he managed. But you see, the fish doesn't rot from the tail. It rots from the head. And the reason why repeatedly he will not resign, as you were asking me, is that he thinks that the first person to resign is President Nana Addo, followed by Dr. Bawumia, and followed by him. So until President Nana Addo and Dr. Bawumia resign, I don't think that this man will resign.
Thank you. Thank you, Mutala. Haja, let me take Haja's thoughts before I come to Solomon also.
No, managing the program.
Anyway, we are all opposition. So one opposition has said you are in government.
Yes,
so you should speak. Why?
Let's listen.
Senna, good morning to our cherished viewers, and then good morning to, what's your name again? Solo, and then good morning, first time seeing, and then good morning to my runaway brother. Because he said I have abandoned and he rather ran away. And good morning to our cherished viewers, especially the members of the Convention People's Party. Senna, Friday, or should I say yesterday, we didn't wake up to a good news in the Convention People's Party because we lost our Ahafo regional chairman, Nana Apia, the pastor. So in fact, it's really sad. And my very good friend is one of the regions that really supported me. And they realized that when they give Haja Hamza to the mandate, I'm not sure the CPP would have been in this kind of, let me put it aside because there's an MPP guy here.
Well, are we enemies?
We are not enemies. We are not enemies. You see, Senna, we are going to talk about the budget. I will just sort of summarize one or two things because the party will officially respond to the media review budget read by the finance minister. But I'll just raise one or two points the minister said, because if you look at the growth that they're talking about, it has declined by 7.something%. But the government of the day are saying they're going to continue the free HSS, which we are supporting. Free HSS, we are against maybe any cancellation of the free HSS. And it's talking about maybe creating more jobs through 1D, 1F. But Comrade Murtala has said something very revealing. If really the 1D, 1F is supposed to create jobs, and what I'm hearing from Honorable Murtala, if that is true, then I think there's more explanation that needs to be given by this current government. Because if you are giving free, waiving taxes for companies that were even paying taxes, then I think they are changing the country's freedom from economic burden to satisfy some few people. And then the minister also talked about the COLA that they are giving the workers, which we are also happy because, in fact, workers' agitations put the country into some kind of maybe bad picture. And they said they're going to create employment to use that. Fine. Fair enough. We are for that because we want a job that our youth will get the chance to work. But if I may quote the minister himself, because I don't want to go off this thing, because they said this government told us in 2000 that we have economically recovered from 0.5% GDP to 4.5 GDP, 5.4 GDP. Now, we were also told the fiscal deficit has declined from 14.7% to 11.something%. Now, we ask ourselves, what has happened in such a way that we are experiencing this economic hardship, foodstuffs going up, and then we are touting 1D, 1F. We're talking about planting for food and job, planting for food and what have you. And if you listen to the minister well, he also spoke about, if you look at point 7, is here in the budget. He talked about the Ukrainian war, Russia-Ukraine war that has affected foodstuff. So I asked myself, what has that got to do with the production of tomatoes in Akumadai or Navrungu or Kumbungu, where I'm coming from? You see, Senna, there's something this current government is not telling us. You see, if you promise certain things and you think maybe later on in life, even between husband and wife, you can say, I'm taking you to Dubai for holidays. I'll do this for you. But you come to the realization that maybe what you were expecting, because budgets are expenditure, income. So if you are not even sure of your income and you plan your expenditure and you are not able to match your expenditure to your income, what do? You come back to the table with your friend and say, oh, I promised A, B, C, but I'm not sure I can meet it. Ghanaians will understand. Ghanaians will understand. So if you are telling me that because of the Russia-Ukraine war, that was why we believe in industrialization, the Convention People's Party. We believe in agriculture, and we believe in the government taking the center stage, not the private sector. Is it not the private sector that they are encouraging to come under 1D, 1F so that they will give them tax rebate? It is not right. if you build your own economy on the promises or maybe thinking that you can do this, meanwhile you cannot do it. Sana, it is incumbent on us to say, oh no, this 1D, 1F, we have failed in that. So we are handing it over to private sector. Let Ghanaians know the private sectors who are engaged in the 1D, 1F. Are we giving it to foreigners? Is it the foreign companies or their Ghanaian companies? Because we believe in the Ghanaian. And the convention people, so we believe in the Ghanaian. So if we empower a Ghanaian that can employ more people, why do you give tax exemptions to foreign companies that will repatriate their profit back to their countries? You see, until and unless we domesticate and understand that a black man is capable of running his own affairs, we will continue to come and read budget that a member of parliament like Comrade Mutala, Honorable Mutala, will come and...
Why this honorable?
Yeah, an honorable member of parliament.
I have never...
You see, will come and shred it into pieces because conflicting figures. So in fact, I was even surprised. I was sitting down, I said, hey, this is my brother. Is he really quoting? But he's quoting it with figures, facts and figures, which I cannot challenge because he was there. He is in parliament. No, I have the copy of this. You see, so if it's anything at all, Senna, the 1D, 1F that they spoke about, the planting for food and jobs, the planting for food, what have we been able to gain from it? Are you with me? Are we getting anything from it? Now we are blaming everything. Now, do you know, even somebody cough, they'll say Russian-Ukraine war. If you're going to drink a Russian-Ukraine war, now it's like a rhyme. If we had looked within our country and our continent, we can produce our own fertilizer. People are talking about bread being expensive now. Alhamdulillah, we are not in the Arab world because even if they are going to drink water, they add bread. The Ghanaians have learned all this eating that is not even part of our culture. Have we tried our land, tested our land to see that we cannot plant wheat? Have we done that? Have we researched into that? So we cannot be lazy and keep on complaining that because we are importing this from Germany, from Italy, and so on and so forth, and that because Russia are supplying them with gas, now it has reduced from 100% to 40 and now 20%. So does that mean that if Russia decides not to supply gas to any of the European countries, Africa are going to sleep? We're going to die. We don't have arable land to plant our own destiny. So this media budget that they came to talk about, I was expecting, one thing that I was expecting the minister to say, that I did not, because we were already against the E-levy. I was expecting the minister to say, since they were not able to meet the target, they were short of, is it 54 million, short of what they were expecting. I thought 10%. So I thought maybe they will come and say, since people are dodging the E-levy, let's reduce it from 1.5 to maybe 1% or 0.75% in order for people, so that there will be more education on why people should pay E-levy. Sana, you know, I don't know whether the minister mentioned road toll or something, because I heard something like, and then people were trying to explain that it's the new roads that are going to be controlled by the PPP, that they are going to toll that one. I'm against that. I'm against that assertion. Why? Ask me why. Other roads should also be charged, like the Ofankor. You know, there's a toll booth there. We have countries like Mali, Niger, Cote d'Ivoire using our roads. And the argument from the communicators of the MPP is that, oh, when they come, they'll buy fuel. The taxes that we are putting on fuel will cater for that. And have they been able to do that? No. So I think, Senna, they have to go back to their drawing board. They have to accept that certain things that they promised, they've not been able to meet it. So they are going back to come back and tell us something that will be very encouraging and inspiring. Because if you tell me that even revenue revenue, taking the revenue collection is even a problem. And you are still giving companies tax exemptions. Do you know what 12 million can do to this country? This is just two that we know. Do you know how many million? $12 million can do to this country. So I think we shouldn't be thinking of maybe ourselves with the larger population of this country. This country, we are suffering because we cannot buy food. We cannot transport ourselves from one destination to because of high cost of fuel in this country. I'm told by an expert, there's no proper monitoring of the companies that bring crude oil in this country. Because normally they use dollars. They charge per dollar. Has anybody taken the initiative to know how much the banks are charging the dollar rate? The last time I checked, commercial bank was the highest. Other banks is 8 point something is up. But the companies that are importing the fuel are paying their distance to 8.4 something. You understand? So who is monitoring them? To say no, we know that this is not how you are buying your dollars to import the crude oil. But everybody is just sitting down. Everybody is just sitting down. Only for the minister to come and tell us that the 1D1F is going to continue. Now I've learned something from Honorable Mutala, I'm calling him, that there was even a move. You know, we are not in parliament. That is why the CPP, if you are watching, let's bury our differences, build our party, and make sure we have a representation in parliament. Even if we don't win the election, at least there must be some different voice in parliament. Because it's sickening. Who is milking the nation? Who is milking the nation to give it to foreigners? Most of the juice that we drink is from other countries. Planting for food and job, planting for food and what have you. It is not reflecting in Ghana's economy. Why am I saying this? We have watermelon, we have mango, we have all the fruits in this country. Now we even import contumbe from Cote d'Ivoire. I see there's something wrong with this country. Can't we put up our own juice factory? Pineapple get rotten on the farms. Pineapple get rotten. Mango. I'm from the northern region. Honorable Mutala will tell you, if you drive between Tamale and Boga, you see huge pile of watermelon there. It will even go bad, and then they'll be begging passengers to even buy it at one city. Meanwhile, they went for loans to farm. They cannot even mix this. So I'm just simplifying this budget review to the ordinary Ghanaian, not quoting figures. Every day, the microeconomic, macro, and macro person or somebody who has no economic background like me will not understand. Because if I buy a gallon of petrol today, 10 cedis, and the next day is 12 cedis, another day 13. Now we are even about 50. I've even lost count of the prices. You see,
then the price will go up.
Yeah, because my daughter I was surprised. She was telling me the prices because I always buy from Guel. So therefore, we're sitting in the office and we're discussing. Then she said, Guel. So I'm a girl, and I'm not told that it's even not 100% Ghanaian. Me, you know, and I learned 60% is even gone or something. So you see, we have to do all this research. Me, one thing about me, I always to buy made in Ghana goods. So that's why even Ghana rice is what I eat. I remember there was a day a cousin of mine came, I prepared omotoshi. He said, Aja, in Dabani, what rice did you use? I said, Ghana rice. Carol used perfume rice. I said, why should I use perfume rice? To prepare it. So, Senna, there are so many loopholes in the country that when we tighten it a bit, we won't chase IMF or World Bank to come and resolve I'm not saying that maybe going to IMF, somebody said even Nkrumah prepared, but he never assessed that before he was overthrown. But I think this is the right time. Ukraine-Russian war has taught us that you cannot rely always on foreign goods. What can you do locally to produce your own tomato paste? Even the tomato paste in market, do you know it is not proper tomato paste? They're just putting something in the can and then we are eating it. We don't even know where it is coming from. And I keep on telling people, buy made in Ghana goods, buy Ghana rice. They say, oh, me, I don't. I say, you see, you are empowering a Vietnamese farmer. Where we are importing the rice, we are empowering their farmers. Meanwhile, they are even getting bigger subsidies to produce more to export. So for me, this mid-year review budgets have not met the expectation of the Convention People's Party. And I think next week we'll come with the official position. That's why when I started, I said I'm just going to summarize based on my Makwala economics on what is happening in the country. If you are telling me that petroleum product, people are importing it, so there's no price control. We have to control it because they are using it, and then we have to look at the tax that are on the fuel. Maybe the government can reduce those taxes so that they cushion Ghanaians, and then charge companies that want to do business in this country by not giving them tax exemptions. Because if you do that, now, Comrade Mutala is sitting here. Let's assume, without admitting, those two companies were giving those taxes. Have the government follow up to see how many people they've been able to employ? Was that not the rationale behind this one, D1F?
I'm not bargaining in. You know, there was Parliament approved. I'm just doing this. Parliament approved a criteria for exemption of such a given of such tax waivers, and the criteria is that the company should indicate how many jobs they are going to create and many other things. So those of us who are opposed to it, our position was that they needed to submit that document with the number of jobs they are going to create.
Of course. You see, if you do that, even the NAPCO wouldn't have even come in. Yeah. This kind of job that is not sustainable wouldn't have come in. Because if you give them the tax exemption, they know that this company is going to take these people, the number of people, and then create more jobs. And then the factories too. You see, one D1F, when they started, I was clapping. But I said, I was born and bred in Brogatanga. We still have the corn beef factory in Zwarungu. Somebody will say that it's an obsolete kind of equipment, but the Zwarungu people applaud them. If you go today and buy some fuel, it will start. The machine will start. The glass factory at Aboso, and so many factories that Nkrumah built, they are lying fallow. So this tax exemption that they were giving for people, they would have taken it to revamp those factories so that people will get jobs. Because Accra is choked, Kumasi is choked, even now Tamale is choked. People are just passing up and down, they don't have any job to do. So if you have a situation where the youth of this country will just sit down and say, what are we going to do? It calls some kind of security threats to the nation. Because then the devil finds what? Work for the idle man. And you look at the insurgency around borders. That is what should remind the current leadership that Ghana is not in maybe Wonderland. It's not in an island whereby we say what touches Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, Burkina Faso, now even Garut Timpani. We learned about 1,000-something people have moved from Burkina Faso to that place. So Ghana, we have to be very, very careful. And then create an enabling environment for people to have confidence. Now the finance minister said that there is lack of investor confidence in the country. People are not foreigners. And then I asked myself, we have a situation where we say we are paying our services, they're paying our. So why should investors say that they have confidence in our economy to invest? There's something wrong somewhere. Some people are being favored by these two companies that have come and they wanted $12 million to be written off, we put it that way, for them. And maybe some are not getting the opportunity. You see, until or unless as a country we see ourselves as one, and maybe Comrade Mutala or me saying something, the MPP communicator will not see that I'm just criticizing, but they should take it in good faith and then learn from their mistakes and put the right thing in place for people to get jobs to do. We'll continue marking time because nobody will bring us any dollars from anywhere. Some few months ago when they said they were going to pump $2 billion, then I asked myself, are we going to print it from here? Or I'm asking you, can we print it from here? No, we cannot print dollars here. So you cannot come and say, so you rather create an environment that will make people maybe work within the country, produce more. Rather you tell all pineapple farmers in central region and eastern region that around there in Sawam, there's a factory there, we are going to give them a tax system for 5 years. Then you'll see the company. Employ the people around in Sawam Adojiri into your company and show proof that we have employed them and this is how we are. So that it will reduce the burden on even government. The government, you cannot say 1D, 1F, and we are not people. Let me tell you one thing, Sana. If they say, now we have Ghana cards, isn't it? Let's finish, let's say all of us have registered. And then they'll say, alphabetical order in this country, especially the youth, they look at the age. Listen, how many of you are employed? You see the majority are not working. So if majority are not working, where are you going to get that tax that you can use to manage the economy of this country? Few people, like you people, are paying tax. Most people are not paying. So for me, I was expecting the minister, especially the E-levy, they should have looked at it and tell us that the minister told us some time back that coupons are going to be cut by 50% for government appointees, MMDC. I was expecting in this review budget, so when we're able to cut 50%, this is how we're able to save. Okay? I didn't see that. Travels, they said there's going to be a ban and then they're going to reduce so many things. We've not seen it in the budget. You see, if you do that and tell the Ghanaian people, then they will have hope. Comrade Mutala wouldn't have had the opportunity to rubbish all what the minister said, because he has been able to come to Parliament to say that, oh, we said we're going to give 50% cut of fuel, but we'll be able to save 1 billion from that. We'll be able to do this. Transparency and accountability is what is lacking. Okay. So that's why people don't really have hope on whatever the minister will say. People will sit and discuss it and laugh. It's only the MPP communicators who will come and justify it.
Nadia, thank you. Let me do a few of your messages before I come to Solomon also. Alhaji Prosper is joining us from University of Education, Winneba. Please, the rising cost of commodities in Winneba is killing us, the students. The government should sit up and do something about the depreciation of the CD and the inflationary rate. This is Otumfo, convener of Crossfire Ghana. Okay. A lot of people are talking about the SIM card registration. With the DJs, the future of Ghana is very bleak with all these half-baked students who will be explaining policies to Ghanaians with a to-me type of understanding. The language English, which unfortunately happens to be imposed on us by the colonial pirates. There's A.U. Farouk in Tamale who says, never again will Ghanaians experience the type of weak and clueless government like that of the MPP government. Budget was empty and lacks economical truth. There's Salia Fusaini who's joining us. He says, okay, he is saying Dr. Usefria Koto, Ghana's best agriculture minister in this fourth republic. He has made agriculture very attractive, which every youth is pushing into. Ghana needs him as president to continue the good works of Nanado, as he is visionary and competent. He deserves all the praises. Sapi Agbo says, thanks to Honorable Mutala, the fraudulent actions of Akufo-Addo Bawumia regarding the 1D1F has been exposed. The expectation we had was, we thought the government was going to establish the factories in every single district of the country, not realizing that rather the government was bribing already privately established companies to agree for their companies to be tagged 1D1F without creating any additional wealth to the economy. There's Owahene Kwesi Champon. Okay, he is also still talking about the Greek minister. Thank you. He says exchange program between Ghana and Israel under the Agri-Top program so far Over 270 students have benefited from paid internship program in Israel. Hard work under the able leadership of Honorable Dr. Uziefri Akoto. Wow. Haruna Jibril says, this man is full of wisdom, which we the youth should be tapping as a source of knowledge to learn. I followed him so long and is a mentor. Senator Uncle Kwesi Pratt, that I can't wait to meet him. Okay, he's talking about Kwesi Pratt. Says a very good morning to your panel, especially is this Senior Sonny Rocky. They are doing a fantastic job this morning. There's Paulus in Kaswa. He's also talking about Ghana Card. Suleiman Napindo is saying, I love this man. If minority has 10 MPs who have courage like him, no cheating will be meted to the NDC by the MPP. CJ Sesena, who is yet to know that the MPP's first resort in all conversations to lie. The finance minister back and forth on the free SCJs is just a DNA issue, which all of the appointees and indeed the appointor engage in. There's Suleiman Abdul Rahim. The Afrobarometer report tells us that His Excellency President Mahama really deserves a second coming because his figures were looking excellent than the government, he says. This is also from Angologa Lashibi in the Volta region. Says a good morning, Senior Senator, and to all the people in the He says, if I may ask, what did Sarah Joseph do before her own party members hated so much like that? As for Ghana card and SIM card re-registration issues, I believe that this is another strategy of the MPP. That's why they are saying they are breaking the hip. We can't survive this hardship under hardship again. As a finance minister BDA budget, we are ordering members on the streets are not even ready to listen. This one is from I can't read your name quite well. The primary school teachers are yet to receive their laptops months after their monies have been taken by the GS. Nobody is saying anything. Castro Buto says, we Ghanaian youth that are not MPP and want to be police officers and army officers. The MPP are only recruiting their party boys. So how would we realize our dreams? This is Haruna Jibril against Senator Alan Kojo Chemanting, who is next to lead and best to lead our great party MPP. He is the only credible and marketable personality the MPP should be looking to bring in to lead the party. And I have no doubt that the delegates will do the right thing. Those are some of the messages you're sending to us. Also,
sir, good morning and good morning to co-panelists. Listening to Aja, she already gagged me. She has predicted what I'm going to say and that I'm going to defend government instead of attacking government. She decided not to praise government, even a single policy.
Oh, I did.
Which one was that? Which one was that? As for my brother, I will concentrate on him so that the numerous inaccuracies he churned out here will be dealt with. First of all, it has to be acknowledged that the world is in some form of difficulty. We all must acknowledge that. Only a couple of days ago, the U.S. itself, the Fed, had to increase its policy rate by 0.75%, moving it to between 2.25 to 2.5%, the highest since 1994, pushing the economy into recession. That is the U.S., the almighty U.S., that everyone thinks they have all that it takes to overcome any challenge. The European Union recently also moved their interest rate from negative 0.5 to 0. It tells you that the world is not in normal time. In fact, the IMF describes the current situation as a crisis as never before. So the world is in crisis. And to the extent that Ghana is part of the global economy, whatever happens at the world stage affects us directly. And this has been acknowledged by the president, has been acknowledged by this government. In fact, on the 24th of March 2022, the finance minister had to address this nation, putting up austerity measures that have been agreed on by the government. And the president on the 27th or 30th of March also went to Parliament on the state of the nation to tell us where we are and how we intend to come out of it. And so we have to put these matters into the right perspective. The budget was read on the 17th of November. The 2022 budget was read on the 17th of November 2021. In that budget, like my brother said, we gave expenditure and revenue handles. We told the good people of this country how we were going to raise monies to finance our expenditure. Unfortunately for us, unfortunately for this country, unfortunately for this world, including the investor that has so much confidence in us, our brothers who have set a very bad precedent going forward or in future behavior of our parliament, decided to thwart the effort of this government by frustrating one of the key revenue measures, that was the E-levy, fighting it through and through, which led to the downgrade of this country by international grading institutions like the Moody's, like the S&P, like the Fitch. These institutions are what investors look up to invest in the country. And if you have a government or you have a country where parliamentarians that ought to know what time it is, that ought to know what is good for this country, decide to fight a government's budget, then you are likely to face some of these difficulties that we have. But every time I listen to my brother accuse the finance minister, I bleed within me. It saddens my heart, because he was one of those that approved the nomination of the minister. He cannot take himself out. The Parliament of Ghana, and to the extent that he's a member of the Parliament of Ghana, they approved the minister. So you cannot all of a sudden make a 360 degrees turn and come back. How many people know that you worked out? To come and tell us that the minister is bad, the minister is not good, at least your member from your side, your party, approved of his nomination. And they believe that the minister was qualified to occupy that position. The last time a vetting was done, they decided to vote on Kojo Ponkruma and then the Agri minister, and gave a unanimous endorsement of the finance minister. So he cannot just come and tell us that the minister is bad and this and that and that. Let's go into the budget. When a budget is prepared, is underpinning the budget are certain assumptions. And so mid-year, like he rightly said, per the Public Financial Management Act, 6 months that you have to go and then present to the country, telling us whether the assumptions are on track or there are certain development that causes changes in figures. Yes, we did our projections based on the outcome of 2021. In fact, in 2020, the country had grown by 0.5%. Fortunately, we were able to come out stronger and grew this economy by 5.4%. So based on that trajectory, we set for ourselves a growth rate of 5.8. Just when we thought all things were going in the right direction, then a certain Russia entered Ukraine. My sister will laugh, and I'll get to why. You are the only person I'm hearing. So Ukraine came in, and then we decided to have some volatility in the oil market world. Prices started going up erratically. I mean, every day you wake up and then it's going up. So no one could even plan. And I remember our brothers then from the NDC telling the government to use the, what do you call it, the windfall that we were getting. Government said, wait a minute, take your time, because Russia invaded Ukraine on the 24th of February. Just the following month, they said we should use the windfall. Let's take our time and look at the whole problem holistically. Government goes to Parliament again through the mid-year budget and says, I am not looking for additional revenue, but rather we are going to use the windfall that they have been talking about all along to cushion or support this budget. I was thinking the minority, and for my brother, would applaud government for taking such a bold decision. That we do not want to burden the good people of this country with more debt, but rather we would operate within the estimated budget of 2022. And that's what we are doing. But I am not too sure how my brother was able to arrive at the conclusion that the one district, one factory is just a charade, which was amply supported by Haji. I am very surprised because he has been in Parliament all this. How can't I go away with it?
How can you go away with it? Did I support? I said what I said. I only quoted what he said. I said, if that is true.
But why should it be free? Why should you use if?
No. The member of Parliament is providing information. She said that if that is true. Okay. So please go ahead.
Yeah, only came to support whatever.
Please.
So she didn't do that.
Yeah. So please.
So she has now.
Don't let me use a word. You're just being mischievous.
No, I'm not being mischievous. I'm only re-echoing what you said.
You are simplifying what she said.
Yes, and you are here. I mean, you agree with what I said. And so the 1D1F. I don't know how people see the New Patriotic Party. We are a private-oriented government. Our belief is in the private sector, and that we always want to do things through the private sector. What did we tell the people of this country before we came to power? We said when we come to power, we in conjunction with the private sector will introduce what we call one district, one factory. And under that policy, what we told the world was that anybody from a particular district, if you are able to identify an opportunity there, just do your business plan, submit it to the Ministry of Trade and Industry, it will be vetted, and once it is a project that is viable, you will be introduced to a bank, and then under that project, there are advanced facilities at the rate of 10%. Government takes an interest of 10%, and you pay 10%. What more? Again, and that is what exactly is happening, unless you want to do propaganda. Negative one as such. Again, you are in Parliament. The Minister of Trade and Industry has been visiting you there. The last time we have done 107 factories, employment to the tune of 160,000 able-bodied Ghanaians have been employed in this country, who are working, and they will be very, very disappointed in what they are hearing or what they have heard this morning, that the 1D1F is not employing anybody. Currently, 125 of such factories are fully in operation, feeding thousands, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands of Ghanaians. So how can we propose such a policy? Now, you have to look at the rationale behind the 1D1F, the rationale behind some of the policies that we have introduced. Because you see, Sana, the problems of this country all has to do with the make or the structure of the economy. We seem not to be moving away from the gorgeous economy that was left to this country. And that is what our government has decided to move it off. And it is becoming very difficult for opposition parties to understand how we could do that. And that is their problem. See, when we came, the first thing we decided to do was to tackle the issue of African unity. And by that, making sure that Africans trade amongst ourselves. So if you would remember, we took the issue of the African Continental Free Trade Area very serious, because in Africa we have a 3 trillion market here. So why must we be disturbing ourselves with seeking markets outside Africa? Trillion market in Africa. Yes. No, it's a market value. Yeah. No, but you are not talking about population. We are talking about value.
Okay, in terms of financial
trade.
Okay.
No, I'm not talking about how can the world population what population do you have in this world? You want to do mischief? Now I'll get to that. So we decided to lobby fellow African countries to accept the African Continental Free Trade, which they did. And God being so good, we had the headquarters established here. Having gotten that, you cannot just have the African Continental Free Trade Area without having your people, Ghanaians, entrepreneurs, producing something to take advantage of it. So to do that, we decided to also bring 10-pointer industrial transformation agenda. And all these things are to shift the economy from the Godsbank nature into a modern economy. In the 10-pointer industrial transformation agenda is what we have, the one district, one factory. And you cannot have factories without raw materials. So what do? You need to promote your agricultural sector, hence the planting for food and jobs, so that the planting for food and jobs will produce more to be able to feed these factories, so that we can produce and then sell in the African market as the first point of call. This is what a visionary, a long vision government thinks of. And not the usual, they just come and then prescribe the problems without solutions, as I've heard this morning. Only the identification of problems and no solution. But the government is poised to deal with the issues. Look, if you look at our import bills in this country, the top 4 items that are taking our monies are the automobile, are the electric machines, are the pharmaceuticals, and so on and so forth. As we speak, we have a policy on automobile, we have a policy on pharmaceutical, we have a policy on petrochemical, to the extent that we have a Ghanaian company producing fertilizer locally. Farmers Swap Company doing very well. That means the push and government is bent on helping such a company. All is not lost. There is a brighter future for us. But if we begin to create a hopeless situation, my brother was talking about free SHS, my God, and he was talking about quality. What is his definition of quality education? If I asked him when he was schooling, how many people were sitting in the classroom, I'm not sure he's going to tell me they were less than 15. But he is a qualified person. He has been educated. So how can you say that you sat in the class that were about 30 people and you feel you were educated properly, but the youth of today, the generation of today, who are also going through the same way, are not having quality education? What has changed? Has the textbooks been changed? Has the classrooms been changed? They are being taught. And in fact, they are more knowledgeable. The youth of today are more knowledgeable than our generation. Allowing for the extra classes he is giving to the people of Tamale Central. Ask him whether the number of people or students that occupy a single classroom are not more than 500 or 50. Let me say 50, not 500. But he believes that he is offering them quality education. So we must not bastardize the free SHS like that. In any case, he himself said, former President John Mahama started the progressive free SHS. And they say that was not the case. There is no document at the Ministry of Education to suggest that indeed the former president, together with the NDC administration, started any progressive free education. Not of that sort, because to start a policy, there has to be a policy document. And he will not be able to show me a single document to that effect. All is available at the Ministry of Education. You can have it anytime that you want. Now, he goes on to make a very serious allegation against the current General Secretary of the MPP, Justin Kodua, that he has presided over a worse administration at the YEA without providing any iota of evidence. No, so why wouldn't you wait for days to come so that we interrogate the very subject matter? But my brother, sweeping statement, very known to him. You will just say it. Look, in this room, he has come to tell us that 2 companies have been offered $12 million waiver without mentioning the names of the companies, so that we interrogate it. You have to. So you tell me, you tell the world, so that we know that these 2 companies, and what is wrong, like President Kufuor said in the past, that we should not be a country that seems to know the cost of everything, but the value of none. Before a company will be given a waiver, they go through a process. What is their contribution towards employment generation? All these things are done. Like he rightly said, you ask for the total number of Ghanaians that will be employed. Were you given or not? And I would be very surprised. Any business plan that anyone prepares has in there the number of people expected to be employed. Me, I have had an occasion to question even the NAPCO and the YEA programs. For me, it does not sit well with any country that wants to grow. How can you go and put about 2.2 billion into NAPCO when we could give even half of this amount to businesses at an interest rate of, say, 1%, and they will absorb a lot of these youth who are unemployed. And these businesses are so sustainable. rather than what we're doing currently. So, Senator, the budget that the mid-year review, what the minister said, he came to tell the true situation of where we are and how we are navigating around it. And it is for all Ghanaians to give this government the massive support so that together we can come out of it. And without to end it all, you know, Thursday was our 30th anniversary as the new patriotic party.
Congratulations.
You have to congratulate. You should have been your opening. It's a solid brand.
You know, usually I get today at the end of the program.
So you were going to do that. I trust your judgment. I want to use this occasion to admonish all MPP members that what our brothers in the NDC did in 2008 must be a wake-up call. That in 2008, anytime they had an opportunity, all they did was to spew lies, propaganda. Now you remember that they were the people that brought the list of all MPP leading members and bank accounts with money stashed in. Kwabena Japan 10 billion, President go for 100 billion, all these. Go and photo shoot some buildings and say these are their buildings. That is what they have started. And that the new patriotic party, a party with history, members must not sit down for us to be taken aback again. Indeed, if you listen to the budget, after the budget, immediately the budget was read, you had the ranking member of finance meet the media to tell the world that the Bank of Ghana has printed 22.04 billion, which turned out to be a palpable falsehood. It's false. But the Bank of Ghana has denied your claim. They are giving you a breakdown.
That denial has even exposed them.
It hasn't exposed anything. So call the governor of Bank of Ghana to Parliament. Because he gave you the breakdown as 1.6 billion being from stocks and bonds, 2.85 billion being from government deposits, 11 billion being overdrawn monies by the state,
he said they
and then 6.2 from IMF SDR. So how can you challenge fact?
He said they never printed money this
you know,
year.
but I intend to go to court on this because the oath of office that you swear, you promise the good people of this country that you will be truthful at all times.
No, but
so why must we allow parliamentarians to lie and go scot-free?
No, they said they didn't print money.
But the Bank of Ghana, the institution that has been given the mandate to do such a thing, has said that it's a lie.
But don't you expect them to defend themselves?
How can they expect? Bank of Ghana is supposed to be an institution on its own.
Really?
You understand? In the same way, you have Don Jinapo also coming out to say that Bost has doubled the cost of their head office, when indeed it is nothing near the truth. That is why I'm admonishing the new patriotic party members to put every differences aside and let us know that the party that we are fighting with, the NDC, they did this thing in 2000 and they walked away freely. And that this time around, all guns must be blazing, and that the moment they spew lies, it must not cross Fadama. And that we deal with it immediately, so that it does not become a canker. Just like they've been able to push Ghanaians to say that the president will be bathing in the air. The president has been going around the country with a chair in one car. We cannot allow this thing to fester. Just like he attempted doing just now, that Justin Kodia, because he want to reduce the impact of that guy immediately by pushing corruption act on him.
Putting him into
I
trouble.
will end it here and say that the future is bright, and the new patriotic party will definitely take this country out of its current difficulties.
Oh, so we're in difficulty.
Oh, of course, we have admitted on several platforms.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
The MPP, they should listen to us and take the good side of whatever we are going to say, not just as criticism.
Okay.
Solo is saying that I never said I applauded the free HSS. This one, that one is not.
Thank you.
So don't marry my submission with Mutala. I only quoted what he said. If it's true,
please let me do the messages from the listeners. Alasa Yakubu says my problem is about agriculture in Ghana. The government should look at the second time of the agriculture sector being under the local government. Agriculture should be on its own, not under. Okay, agriculture is actually on its own. I think Akwesi Samson says one of the way of getting revenue is stopping all tools from operating, because okay, The rest of it, I can't help you. Aliu Musa says, Honorable Mutara would really like to have, okay, that one is a personal message. A few more messages that I hope I can get through. The Costa Akajeduble says, I have realized that COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine war did not affect the economy only, but affected... Mohammed Abdul Baki says, Mr. Sana, newly posted teachers haven't been paid for 7 months in service now. We are suffering in our very own country, and the Director General of GS is telling us to go and do galamsey because we're eating before we're employed. Nancy Mensah says, oh, Solomon, stop clashing our straws and making baseless arguments. The Russia-Ukraine war has contributed very little to Ghana's problem. It's all mismanagement, lies, and propaganda. Janet Opoku says, Mr. M, okay, thank you. All right, so those are some, okay, Kobla says, Solomon, stop deceiving yourself. Open your mind and accept that Ghanaians in general, including MPP sympathizers, did not accept the E-levy. That's why they are not patronizing. Is the NDC financing the pockets of people who are not using the E-levy? Solomon, please, we are not idiots. Abdul Salam Rufai says, if Honorable Mutala was part of the people who passed Oproyata and is running the country down, they should remove him. Solo, can you name 10 companies under 1D1F? And people should be transparent in handling the country's resources so we can believe them. Also, 20 cedis notes was printed in 2019 and 15 notes in March 2020. Who is telling the truth? Me. Good morning.
Good morning.
So you'll conclude for us on the discussion on the budget.
Well. I think in all sincerity, we should be able to say it clearly, and I don't think this has anything to do with politics. The quality of budgets being churned out in recent periods lacks clarity. We are unable to predict it, and I believe there is no accountability in there, which means that the budgets we are presenting are not credible. And I think I was expecting a big stone from you, because in November last year I had stated that there was no way government would have made $1 billion out of E-levy. The same figures they looked at in deciding that we could have made almost 7 billion were the same figures I looked at. Based my computation on those same figures and came to the conclusion that it was not possible to raise that kind of money from E-levy. Today, the Ministry of Finance have come out to clearly state a position that, yes, it is true, we are unable to do what we claim we could have made out of E-levy. But again, credibility. They couldn't tell us that it is because of variable A and B the reason why we are unable to achieve those targets we set. All we saw was a cut, a significant cut of over 6 billion. Let's put that aside. I would further want to look at the other revenue lines in the budget and question some few things. And I'm questioning the credibility of the budget, and in fact asking a simple question: who is the one responsible at the Ministry of Finance doing the thinking? Because it seems that there is nobody doing the thinking. Look, you know the NHIL and the Get Fund levies both carry the same percentage of 2.5%. And in all regards, those figures will react on the same values. So, if you are computing 2.5% at the port, it is the value of the goods that are coming in. If you are selling it domestically or any goods or services, both will react on the same values. Now, if you look at the budget itself, not the revise, not the mid-year, we had budgeted 3.269 billion for NHIL and Get Fund 3.27 billion for the Get Fund levy, a difference of 7 million. Now, the first quarter, second quarter programmed, NHIL, the budget line reads 1.472, so 1.47 billion, as against a Get Fund of 1.08 billion, a difference of over 384 million. But watch what will happen in terms of the provisional outtime. NHIL is 1.46 billion and Get Fund is also 1.46 billion. Now, let's ask ourselves that how can the same tax rate we go on to achieve different figures in terms of program, yet in terms of the outturn we tend to achieve similar, almost without any difference, or if there is, it is so insignificant. But let us not stop there, because the 1% COVID should also not be left out. If you have 2.5%, which gives you 3.06 billion or 3.4 billion, then 1% should give me about 1.3 billion. Or if you want, you take the value being turned out and multiply it by 100 divided by the 2.5. For us to know the gross amount on which the tax was computed, and then compute your 1% on that, you would still come to the 1.3 billion. Yet, in terms of COVID, we are actually budgeting 1.141 billion. The issue for me is, what is going into the budget in terms of thinking? Because if anybody should take this budget, the best place you can place this budget is the trash can, because it lacks every credibility. Yes, you might not see it and you might feel, oh, this is computations, this is not. But look, the minister himself, he's saying that investor confidence in terms of resident people has dwindled. Yet our participation in terms of non-resident people in our capital market have seen some growth, and therefore is going to give them a further boost by giving them a tax exemption in terms of capital gain tax. Paragraph 106. Now, when you marry all this together, you ask yourself that what is going into the budget in terms of thinking? Who is doing the thinking? And after the thinking, who is actually reviewing what is being done? Because this budget is not only poor, but it is disgraceful. The budget is not only poor, but it is disgraceful. Look, we all know our revenue gaps in terms of property rates, in terms of VAT, where our efforts should be directed to. And I had said it somewhere last year that where we should be concentrating is the e-invoicing, and especially the B2B under the e-invoicing. Because we have the capacity to raise more than 50 billion on only one tax handle, being the indirect tax. But we have taken the lazy, the cheap and easy way out, believing that we can tax the Ghanaian down to solve our challenges. But let's come to another thing, and I will bring that in with this 22 billion issue. Look, our net assets from December last year to date moved from 135 billion to 149 billion. If you compare that to our total liability in terms of the loans, let's just use our debt. We have a debt as of the beginning of the year of around 352 billion. That means that we have a deficit of 234 billion in December last year. Up to May, from 234 billion, we now find ourselves at 258 billion. Yet, we haven't been able to go to the Eurobond. That is how much of money or difference. It hovers around the 22 billion, isn't it? Isn't it? And then you have Bank of Ghana come to me and say that I was engaged in repurchase of 1.6. Now let's look at it. Let's look at how wise that is. Look, when it comes to figures, if you want to lie with figures, make sure you are lying to ignorant set of people. Because figures has never lied. You left the primary market and you came to the secondary market and bought back. That is your claim. And bought back bonds you have sold on the primary market. When you have the capacity to do that at the primary market and at a cheaper rate. So what informed your decision? I mean, what is the sense behind that? When we all know that the coupon rates on that market are higher. Okay, let's assume there is a repo. BOG should do us all good to bring us the agreement. Because every repurchase arrangement will have an agreement that at this time I will buy back what I'm selling to you at a certain amount. Let's put that also aside. In their own revised budgets, if you claim that you draw down on SDR, my friend, SDRs are in fact a line item under financing. And go and check. The 4 billion you wanted to raise under SDR from the IMF, you have revised it to zero. From 4.5 billion to zero. And you are telling me that what is happening in this country? This is BOG telling us that he drew down on our SDRs, and that is what is using to finance government. And then the finance minister is telling us that I have revised my budget, and my target of 4.5 billion in terms of SDRs, I expect zero. I mean, how do we marry all this? How do we marry all this? But what we must realize is the lack of confidence in this economy and the rate at which it has gotten to. The fact that savings and time deposits have seen a significant drop, yet foreign currency deposits have increased. To over 30%. And we think it is cool. We think it is just fun to come and stand at Parliament and read a budget and say whatever and go your way. That is not the end of it. Whatever you read out, people will pick it and form an opinion on all of us. What was presented in budget is a representation of every single Ghanaian, our health in terms of finances. If it shows positive signs, confidence will return to us. But what did we need to have done with this mid-year budget? We should have shown capacity to do whatever it takes to return to pre-pandemic expenditures. I heard the Deputy Minister of Finance saying that they have done so well to cut down on expenditure just after the reading. And I was surprised. You cut down 2 billion. Meanwhile, your revenue cut down on one line alone is over 6 billion. What did you really achieve? Your financing gap has rather widened after the review. Who is managing the city? Who is managing the city? John Mahama? Or who is managing the city? You see, the BOG response, what the Minister of Finance read in Parliament, tells me one thing, that our fiscal and monetary policy formulators are all failures. Because there is no other way to look at what is being churned out. Would we achieve the target set within this budget? I will say no. Will you overspend in terms of expenditure? I will tell you yes. Will you be able to achieve your revenues? I will give government a 90 billion and not 96 billion. Because they will not be able to outperform 2020-2021 growth of 28% in terms of revenues, tax revenues, from the 55 to about 70 billion as we speak. That is a turnout in terms of 2021, which is a 28% growth. And I am saying in 2022, you will not be able to do more than 28%. And therefore, the best you could do is actually 90. And that means that you have really performed. But why lie to yourselves when you know that even the target you have set, you will not be able to achieve them? Because if you knew you could achieve them, then you should have stated the correct amount. I can predict what happened after they set the indirect taxes and realized that if they push beyond, they will be going over 30 to 32% growth in revenue. They have to cut back on some of the revenue lines. And so they pick NHIL and then they cut back on that. They pick Get Fund and then they cut back on that without any basis. That is the stage in which we have got into. It is a state of hopelessness. If you understand financing and you understand what budget means, my brother, what has been presented to us is a disgrace. Absolute disgrace. And I think that it is also a blot, a huge blot on the technocrats that we have within the system. If they sit there and say nothing, it means they are incompetent. And any new government, I will advise that they are all sacked. Yes. Because if I am to produce this, right, or this is produced from my outfit, and I did not question it, it comes out, and I did not put ink to paper to resign, that what is going on is not right, then trust me, the technocrats in the Ministry of Finance and BOG have no business being where they are. We can't continue this way as a country. No government should keep the fair stream of technocrats within the Ministry of Finance and BOG if this is what they can produce. This is a complete disgrace. But why would they do this? Because they still want to lie to themselves that there is a way out of their mess. And there is no way out. What they are doing, at the end of the day, they will reinforce the point that this nation, financially, economically, has failed. And really, we just don't need the IMF to come with aid, but we need the IMF to have a whip and stand on us to ensure that we do the right things. I will understand if I'm part of the IMF team to look at these figures and tell you that complete them. And after you have completed them, we will use whatever results you churn out to formulate the next level of policies that might help you come out of your mess. Because our budget has not been transparent, our budgeting has not been credible. And like we are saying here, it is one thing. What Honorable was saying was the fact that You cannot rely on the things that have been put in terms of budgetary lines. You cannot rely on them. We talk of the U-start. What analysis, what indicators, what promptings are we getting that U-start will be a solution after we have filled with NAPCO? The taxes in terms of exemption we have granted to 1D, 1F factories that were existing or companies that were existing already and operating. Show me, because you are capable of doing it, that before we granted them the exemption, this was their performance, and after the exemption, this is now the performance. Show us, convince us. We as a people deserve to know. Don't come and tell me you have granted 290 over 290 companies, and then what came out of it? What came out of it? We need to know. Solo, you don't worry. You will have your turn. Don't worry. Don't be heartbeat. Just
I thought you had two more topics.
Please. You want to come back on the 1D1F?
No, the old man is not happy when we're talking about what's the name? Dry bones. So that's understandable. So he's just uncomfortable.
The other aspect of this 1D1F we needed to ask is that what was our game plan? What sectors were we looking at? Look, you have 1D1F in terms of pure water companies. The market saturation in terms of pure water business, I mean, nobody, even 11-year-old can, I mean, and yet you are granting 1D1F status to pure water companies.
I don't get it.
Meanwhile, we need to reduce the cost of our energy, and therefore by doing that we need to manage the energy mix. The solar sector, what have you done there? Nothing. Renewable energy, what have you done there? Nothing. July was set. This July was set for the net metering. I'm asking, where are we on that? Ministry of Energy, so that if I should employ my meter or energy in terms of renewable energy and I am supplying government power, I can get the credit in terms of other months where I have to rely more on the grid power. So the net metering was supposed to have come on this July, this very July we are in. What has happened to that? Nothing. Yet we are quick to do nice prints, put nice logos on, go out there and be talking and commissioning things, whilst in effect we are doing nothing. We are adding no value to the system. And that is where we find ourselves. It is a complete position of hopelessness. And I don't know who is going to wake them up or what will wake them up. Because this is something that we kept saying from day one, that the course you have taken, as for free SHS, the least said about it, the better. Why do you educate people? So that they can work more productive and efficiently, isn't it? So if you engage in investing in people who can neither be employed or work effectively or efficiently, what have you done with our money? What have you done with our money? Nothing. It is not about the investments or putting money in an investment. When you have money, I don't think if Solo should be given a 10 million cedis today, he will invest for investing sake. He will invest looking at the returns. show me the returns of all your flagship programs. In the agri sector, show me the returns. What did we do? One dam, whatever, one village. Today, donkeys have GPS.
Oh, wow.
That's what we were told by the Minister of Finance.
Oh, wow.
That they can carry the fertilizer and find. Yes. Well, sorry, the Minister of Agri.
Because it's not true. That's right.
He said it.
It's not true.
So donkeys
have GPS. The Minister of Agri said the donkeys have GPS.
Oh, so he said it.
Oh, he said it.
They put
So you also really going that position?
Oh, yes.
That the donkeys have GPS.
Anyway, nothing surprises me again.
Unfortunately, thank you, Neil. Unfortunately, that's all time will allow us for on the very first topic. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll go to the matter of Sarah Asafo. Stick and stay. This is Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. We are live on Pan-African Television and on Radio Gold.
He has labored, he has suffered.
Hello, what are you doing Tuesday to Friday, 7:30 to 9 o'clock p.m. every day? You should be watching The Couch. I'll tell you why. On Tuesdays, we talk social issues, lifestyle, health, all those everyday issues that affect us in the big ways. Late Wednesdays are for book reviews. Thursdays are for the hard talk, those social, economic, policy-oriented, political questions that demand for the tough questions to be asked. And personality profiling Fridays, when we get to know the stories behind the winning personalities we love. Inspirational story from inspirational personalities. Hey, listen, you really cannot miss The Couch with me, Amma Pratt. Still, the only TV show with a hat. In previous seasons, he saw this.
You are not allowed to hawk or preach in commercial vehicles.
The perception in Ghana is abortion is illegal, and we don't follow up with the exceptions.
The existence of the customary marriage is no prerequisite
for the ordinance
marriage.
Yes. And now, are you ready for this?
Some people express the fact that they don't go on leave with pride.
Accumulated leave, like they term it, is illegal.
Because in Ghana we don't have enough lawyers, and the accused can apply for bail where he has no lawyer.
Knowing full well that you have an STI and you do not reveal that to the person and you have the sexual contact with the person, it is also part of domestic violence.
Join the Law Express panel for relevant, informative, and educative topics.
It is clear that if the court grants bail, it is the registrar of the court that has the power to deal with execution of the bail.
All matrimonial properties that are sold without the consent of the other party are actually null and void.
Trasacco Estates, home to Accra's most beautiful and luxurious homes, presents its newest addition, Trasacco Springs, a premium master planned community of service plots surrounded by an exhaustive list of amenities. The gated community of Tema to Accra Motorway presents you the finest opportunity to own a land that suits your preferred size, budget, and payment terms. Trasacco Springs is open to you for development. Our on-site sales executives are ready. Call on 055 659 2658.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom.
Well, good morning to you once again. Mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. We are live on Pan-African Television. We are also live on the various social media platforms. We are live on Radio Gold. Let me do a few messages, comments you're sharing with us. Martina, okay, this is Ezina Kojo who says, good morning. endorse Mr. Yaboy's stance for any government to sack some technocrats for their technical incompetence. I witnessed the delivery of the cheeky manner budget, the manner the budget was presented, downloaded a copy and skimmed through. My first reaction was to dismiss it as phony, very phony, and start questioning. If there are economists in the Ministry of Finance, if those in the ministry don't understand the difference between accounting costs and economic costs in the budgeting decisions. There's Musa Abato, who is also joining us, says the idea of, okay, this one, Tafainama here is also joining us. So why is it that Russia and Ukraine war didn't affect Rwanda and many African countries? Even our close neighbors, prices of food and petroleum are not being increased the way it's being increased here. There's Akwesi Kisi from Gomo Ankran, who is joining us, says Zambian's president Hichilema, after 11 months, reduced the inflation rate from 25.6% in August 2021 to 9.7%, made Zambian kwacha the world's second best performing currency. It was the world's worst performing currency, building Africa's largest nickel mine, opened a fruit factory, hope they were not hit by Ukraine-Russia war. Nanado and his government would rather put blame on COVID and Russia and Ukraine war. Ghana, that's Kwesi Kisi in Gomuankran. Prince Henry Koforidua says corruption has become a social intervention under the leadership of Nana Maumia-led government. The president who promised to use Nana's principles in fighting corruption in opposition and then fighting same principles after winning power must not be trusted to fight corruption. Nana Akufo-Addo is the real definition of a scam. Prince Henry Koforidua sent that one. Kizito Intama Ace is also joining us. What should? Okay, a lot of you are commenting on the NIA issue. And then you move on to say this incompetent, insensitive, inept, nepotistic, and abysmal performing Nanado and Baumia government are always subjecting Ghanaians through unnecessary hardship. Come 2024, we have to rescue the country, inshallah. That's coming from Kizito. There's also this one from Lagbaja who says if you vote for impunity, disgrace, nepotism, and lazy people like MPP Nana Akufo-Addo, this is what you get. But I blame people who vote for the government. Thank you very much for that message. Alhaji Hadi in Pig Farm says surely indeed the NPP led by President Nana-Addo and Baumia government will forever remain the biggest disappointment of the Fourth Republic of our dear nation. History will judge the Nana-Addo Baumia government and they will go down in our history books a failure in disguise. Finally, I'll lead the communicators of the NPP with this saying: keep quiet and they will call you a fool. Say something and they will know you are one. So those are some of the messages that you're sending to us. We'll move on to the matter of Sarah Adwoa-Safo. The president has fired her. But Parliament has deferred a decision on whether or not her seat should be declared vacant because of some opposition was raised by the NDC in Parliament. We have about 30 minutes. So, Honorable, I can only afford you 5 minutes on that topic, and I'm hoping you'll be very brief for me.
Well, before I say that, let me say that the Ukraine-Russia war started in 2014. The NDC under President Mahama never blamed the challenges that confronted us to that war. So let's get this recent war is not the first time. 2014 it was a bitter war in the Donbass region, and it affected the production and the export of grains, fertilizer, and even oil. And in any case, Ghana is now a net producer of crude. And the Minister for Finance himself in 2019 budget said that we are a net producer of crude and made about over $1 billion because we exported about $8.6 billion of crude and spent $7.5 billion in buying refined oil. So we are net producers. So anytime crude prices go up, we should be making some profit. But Senna, I just want to find out why you, the journalists, including my good friend Owusu, are not interested in finding out how much we have paid so far on the COVID levy. You give us something free, not all of us benefited from it. We are all being asked to pay for that free, yet you are taxing us. Nobody knows whether you have taxed us enough to take care of what you claim to have spent on us for the purposes of the free water and free electricity. We need to know, because if we have paid more and we are still being taxed, then it's extortion. And however, I urge my good friend and other communicators, stop using the word free. You never give us water free or electricity, but we are now paying for it. How do you morally justify? Yeah, but we are now paying for it. So don't tell us that you gave us free energy.
We gave you free water and electricity.
But we are now paying for it.
You are now talking about now.
And so we are paying for. How is it now free?
You are giving free water.
Let me come to Adjoa Safo. Let me come to Adjoa Safo's issue. First and foremost, the NDC is never defending Adjoa Safo. We are not defending Adjoa Safo, and we are not speaking for Adjoa Safo. We are a member of the legislative arm of the Republic of Ghana. We have agreed to practice democracy. At least, our democracy has been the longest running democracy since Ghana gained its independence. And part of the agreement to practice democracy, we must respect all the democratic principles. As a legislature, we have some responsibilities. Among them, and one of the most important of the responsibility, is holding the executive accountable. Holding executive accountable is not only limited to financial accountability. We have a duty to hold the executive accountable morally, hold the executive accountable administratively, and we must do everything possible to ensure that the executive accounts to us the way they rule or govern based on the authority that the people of this country have given to them. To that extent, that authority is not given to them in vacuum. The authority is given to them, expecting them to discharge that authority, that power, within the confines of law. Now, Parliament has standing orders, and if you read the standing orders of Parliament, they are largely driven from the Constitution. Of course, no law can contravene or can become adherence to the mother law, that is the Constitution. To that extent, some of the standing orders provisions are just directed ditto taken from the Constitution. Now, if you come and read standing orders 15, 16, 17, that is where you talk about the privileges. Sorry, that is where you talk about how a member of Parliament can't indeed forfeit his or her seat if that person violates certain privileges given to the person. And the 15, 16, 17 is talking about member of Parliament must not absent themselves from Parliament for 15 sittings. It is not supposed to be consecutive, and that's one thing many people do not know. In every sitting, we rose on Friday. In every sitting, that particular sitting, if you absent yourself more than 15 days without permission, without permission, and that permission can only be given by the Speaker, now you will forfeit your seat. However, if you absent yourself for more than 15 days, Parliament cannot just say, we declare your seat vacant. You must be given the listening ear or the uttering pattern. It's a fundamental principle of law that you ought to listen to the other side before you can take a decision. Now, if you read Article 97 1C of the 1992 Constitution, which says, among others, that if a member of Parliament absents himself or herself from Parliament for 15 days without permission, such a member of Parliament be referred to the Privileges Committee. The Privileges Committee's authority given to it by this article of the 1992 Constitution is not to take a decision, but to determine the reasonableness of an explanation. Because that member of Parliament would have to appear before the committee to explain why he or she absented himself or herself for more than 15 days. So it's to establish the reasonableness. A committee of Parliament is not entirely Parliament. It's a subset of Parliament. The powers that the Parliament has is not the same powers that are given to committee. The committee does its work for and on behalf of Parliament. And that is why when the Speaker refers any matter to a committee, that committee does its work and reports to Parliament. So a decision that should be binding on Parliament should be a decision that is taken by the entire members of Parliament, in this case, the 275 members of Parliament. And such a decision cannot be taken without someone presiding. And that is why when a Speaker is not on the chair, you cannot be deemed to be having parliamentary work. Except when you have a meeting,
Once the speaker rises from the chair, and that's why anytime the speaker is rising, another speaker, either the deputy speaker, must come and sit. Without the speaker, you can't commence business. Now, you have a committee in this case. A matter referred to you. By the way, the MPP made a whole lot of noise. If they were so bothered about the people of Domi Kwabenya, they would have petitioned the speaker to do that, because the constitution and the standard orders are very clear. Someone must petition the speaker. Some had problems with even the decision of the speaker to refer the matter, because some claim and think that someone should have petitioned the speaker. It took the speaker personally to refer the matter to the Privileges Committee. You never did that. Now you have the first deputy speaker, who is also the chair of the Privileges Committee. You had a meeting, and this thing was not about only Adjosafo. 3 members of parliament. You afforded, you gave all of them the opportunity to appear. They all appeared. One person, for whatever reason, could not appear before the committee. And then immediately after that, even in taking decision, it was a split decision. Then DC member says that you can't declare that seat vacant. We need to report to parliament. Yet after the work, the first deputy speaker granted an interview and said he has asked his people to write to the electoral commission declaring that seat vacant. Are we in a banana republic? Who gave him that authority? Who gave him that power? The moment you go and then you invited her and she couldn't come, yours is to report to parliament, to plenary. We gave them the opportunity. 2 people appeared to give reasons, and we have established the reasonableness of they absenting themselves for more than 15 days, and on that basis, we think that their seat should not be declared vacant. However, Adjosafo refused to take the opportunity to make herself available. You report to us. Then we then take the decision.
Okay.
But you haven't done that. So the NDC is not defending Adjosafo. We are simply saying that those of you who claim to be the doyens of democracy, respect it. Report to us and let's take the decision. So on that day, it was not even through motion. You see, when you come through motion, then we would even debate it.
Okay.
So if the committee had reported to plenary, we would have debated it. The reason why the standing order says we debate it is that the standing order is conscious of the fact that the decision taken by the committee cannot be absolutely representing the decision of the 275 members. So we would have debated and then voted upon that. You know why they don't want that? If you want to vote to determine whether someone's seat should be declared vacant, you need a particular percentage. Why are you interested? And let me conclude on this. The argument is now that the people of Domi Kwabenya must be represented. The SAL people need representation. They haven't been represented for 2 years, getting to 3 years. Caused by you. Caused by Jin Mensa, the president and everybody. The people of SAL. The people of Honorable constituency in Western region.
I say North.
Eh?
I say North.
Central region. I say North. You have an official member of parliament, but he cannot sit in parliament. You are not interested in that. So what hypocrisy is this?
Okay, Honorable.
In one breath, the people of Domi Kwabenya needs to have representation. In another breath, some people have never had representation as far as this parliament is concerned. You rejoice over it.
Thank you. This is okay. So we are live on Shine FM in Akachi 96.9, Hills FM in Adakulu 91.7, Niwasi Radio in Ketekrachi on 89.7, Sela Radio in Dabala is on 97.1, Diamond FM in Tamale 93.7, Bewa Radio is in Yendi on 106.5, Radio Kitawon is Saboba 95.7, Benya FM Elmina 105.7, Cape FM is in Cape Coast on 93.3, Global FM 105.1 in Ho, Volta 1 TV. We are live on Zeps FM in Zebila. It's on 95.9, and True FM in Adeso on 92.5. So,
my brother, I don't know. For the first time, he seems to love the MPP more than the MPP itself by trying to defend an MPP. You see, there are certain things that are facts that you cannot do away with. It is a fact that the honorable member has absented herself for more than 15 days. But you decided to let go of him? Okay, so it is also a fact that when you absent yourself for 15 days, you are supposed to be sent to